Hi, everyone.
Hello,
My name's Sarah, and I am the content marketing manager here at Chartmetric.
and I'm Alina. I'm one of our data analysts on the analytics team.
And today we'll be speaking to you about the importance of music data analytics and what it sort of means to be in the gender metadata space in this industry.
Let's get into it.
Cool. So I'm going to start off with just a quick presentation to sort of give you an overview of what this is. If this is your first time sort of diving into this world of music metadata, this will kind of help, share what we're about here. Alrighty. So here at Chartmetric, we're all about advancing music with the power of data. So Chartmetric is an all-in-one platform for artists and music industry professionals, providing comprehensive streaming, social, and audience data for everyone to create successful careers in music. So what we're really about here is market data. And what sort of is market data? So market data is the missing link between how we understand, contextualize, and gain insight into how, consumers and other folks discover, listen to, and share music. And ultimately, at the end of the day, it empowers us to make informed decisions and develop effective strategies as, marketers or whatnot. And so the music industry has always used market data. This isn't something new. But yesterday's market data can only tell us about yesterday. So in the past, we sort of used more simple sources of data. This could have been anything from fan club memberships to tour schedules, press cuttings, or sales charts. But today, we have 1,000 times more data, and the market data is just so much more powerful. So in the past, where we had, maybe 4 to 5 different data points from CDs and ticket sales and merch sales, now we have over 10,000 different data points from our consumers. And this can be anything from Spotify monthly listeners to YouTube views to Instagram likes to shares, et cetera, et cetera. And ultimately, this is just because there are more listeners in more places. And with the rise of globalized music, the marketplace has become essentially borderless, and music has become more global. So what we do here at Chartmetric is provide actionable insights into these indicators. So who is Chartmetric sort of for? Well, we're used by over 4,000 organizations across the music industry and beyond for thousands of different individual artists, songwriters, and creative. And at the bottom here, you just can see like a little list of how many people we actually sort of apply to. This can be anyone from, the artists and labels themselves, as we've been mentioning, but also publishers, managers, the live sector, online media and curators, radio, TV, brands, etc. And sort of what is Chartmetric for? So we kind of can boil this down into 3 main parts. So the first one would be audience acquisition and retention marketing. So this is sort of your detailed insight into audience reach and engagement for over 10 million artists across all streaming services and social networks. The next thing is sort of these global audience insights. So just gaining a deeper understanding into maybe the location demographics of your audience, what they want to see in terms of content. And then the last thing we like to say here is, pitch and promoting smarter. So sort of finding where you need to be to get to where you want to be. And this can be from uncovering the most impactful brands, tastemakers, and influencers across streaming services and social media. So with that all being said, let's dive into the platform really quick.
Hi, everyone, and thank you so much, Sarah, for that awesome introduction. So now, obviously, that everyone is familiar with what Chartmetric is, who it's used for, some of the ways that it can be used. Now we will take a closer look at what the platform is actually like. So when you log into Chartmetric, you will be greeted with our homepage. This has a lot of customized features to you as a user, the searches that you've recently put into the search bar, some noteworthy insights about artists that you may be following or have visited recently, as well as a feature of ours called Shortlists that we'll get into later, where you can select specific artists artists based on certain kind of groups or things that you want to see, and get a view of their artist list. We are going to break all of this down in this training, so don't worry if it's a little overwhelming. But I do want to call out here to the left, you can see sort of all the elements of data that we collect here on Chartmetric. So of course, we can look at artist-specific metrics, tracks, we have charts as well. This is really important when we think about artist-specific performance, how are they charting, and of course, playlists, which playlists are they being featured on, how frequently, how many followers do they have. Sarah's going to detail our compare tool in a little bit, which is a really, really awesome feature that's unique to Chartmetric. We have some specific reporting centers, and some of the pages that we've recently added include locations, countries and cities, as well as brands, specifically radio and SiriusXM, and then festivals. So of course, lots of data coming from lots of different places, but we're really excited to zoom a little bit in on this artist page specifically so that you, as maybe an artist yourself or a small label, have a better idea of how you can take advantage of the Chartmetric platform. And just to confirm, we are sort of demoing to you our premium plan of Chartmetric, but we have a variety of levels of plans that you can choose at different price points. That starts all the way at the artist plan, then the manager plan, our premium plan. So just to give you a little bit of a breakdown on that. So if you log on and you don't see everything that we're showing you, that will make a bit more sense. So now that you know more about the Chartmetric homepage, let's dive specifically into an artist profile. We've decided to choose, of course, a female artist and from the home country of Italy, Georgia. And this is what the artist profile looks like. Of course, on the overview page, you're going to see an overview. We have all of the links linked to all the platforms connected to Chartmetric, of course, genres, moods and activities, and some more metadata here. So this is really giving you the quick overview, sort of a lot of these quick stats and metadata to understand where is this artist at in their career. And of course, we see a lot of these specific metrics that are unique to the Chartmetric platform. Like here we have rank as well as score. These are two really important metrics that we create internally using our modeling system that factor in all of the different data points for a specific artist. So if we look at this for score, calculating a scale of 0 to 100 by comparing relative artists, and of course, factoring in performance across 16 different social and streaming platforms. So we're taking all this data and putting it all into one stat, so you really get a sense of where an artist is at in their career, which is super cool. And of course, now that we have score, we can then rank artists compared to one another to see where this artist is falling. So Georgia is actually in almost the top 3,000 of artists, 2.2K, and she's had a really huge rise here. We can look at some of these specific dots. We see that maybe, okay, she's posting on Instagram, she's active on her socials. Sometimes we have a new release popping up as we see here. So that could sort of coordinate with this really high increase. And now if we scroll down, we can kind of see who are some similar artists that are following in the same area as Georgia, which is really awesome. Now career snapshot page, this is another really important part where we do more of a zoom in from the Chartmetric lens. So factoring all of the different scores and data points, we can get a sense of where an artist is in their career. Career stage is quite simple. We're using the average Chartmetric score over the year and then doing a sort of percent distribution. So wherever that artist falls compared to other artists in relation to their score is sort of the stage of their career that they're in. And Georgia is in the mainstream stage, which is really awesome. And of course, with that new release, we see that she's having a lot of recent momentum. She's in the growth phase. And the thing that's great about Chartmetric is whenever you're not sure about a metric, you can hover over these info little bubbles like I've been doing to get some more details where we see that recent momentum is just trend of Chartmetric score over the year, which is great. A couple more include network strength as well as social engagement. But if we keep scrolling, we see a percent change breakdown by metric. Here we see Deezer playlists, YouTube playlists. And this page gives us just a really general sense of, from the jump, where is the artist that we're looking at? What's trending right now? Are they trending positively or negatively? And of course, we can go in here and, look at some different customizations and play around with stuff, but we'll get into that more now that we move on to another really important page for artists and assessing the performance of your artist, which is the stats and trends page. So we took a look at this a bit earlier with Chartmetric rank and score, but just to walk you through the page itself, Chartmetric is a really customizable tool. We always have the user in mind. We want to make sure that you can get exactly the insights that you want to see. So full customization is really important over that. All of these visualizations that you see, all of these features, you have the full capability to make it your own. So for example, if I just want to look at the past month's data, I can do that, and that will apply to all of the charts on this page, or maybe the past year. Any chart, if I want to interact with it or see these sort of insights or bubbles, I can click in, or if I want to zoom into a specific part, I can do that really, really easily, and it'll apply to all the charts on my page. So keep that in mind when you see these charts. If I'm not customizing or interacting with it, you can always do that yourself. And of course, we can download the chart, we can download the data, and that can be really important for you to do your own internal analysis. So looking at this overall page, we'll scroll down. I'm going to change it to 3 months just to get a general trend. Overall trend being Chartmetric stats. Then we start to look into engagement, which is platform specific. So we see monthly listeners, the conversion rate. And again, if you don't know what a metric is, hover over it and you'll figure that right out. Then we get into YouTube, TikTok, Wikipedia, Pandora, pretty much every platform, social, streaming, it will be here on this page. Of course, fan base is a really, really important part of understanding an artist's performance. So we look at followers, subscribers, fans, all of those really good stuff. We've got it in one place. This is the overall page, so we can sort of do a zoom in. If you want to go straight to engagement or straight to fan base, it's really easy to do that. And of course, things are customizable. And if you want to see it in a table view, it's super, super easy. That is the stats and trends page. Now I am going to dive into another really important page, which is the playlist page. So when we think about how well an artist is doing, or maybe if their new release is performing as we want it to be, or it's getting the kind of exposure we want to be, playlisting is a huge, huge part of that. So we have a variety of platforms that we can look at the data level of playlists for. You see Spotify, Apple Music, Deezer, Amazon, and YouTube. Playlist evolution is an aspect that is also something we do customized here on Chartmetric that really gives us a good sense of, for a specific artist or even a specific track, how has their playlist journey evolved over time since the track was released? So how many playlists are they on? What kind of playlists are they on? Are they editorial, user-generated, algorithmic? And what's the general trend here? So maybe I want to look at the specific time frame, or of course, zoom in, zoom out. I have full capability over that. Then, of course, we just have the general playlist table page. This is really valuable. We can take a look at, okay, I want to see only the playlists that an artist is at the top of. So here we go. Georgia's song is top of Hot Hits Switzerland, and this playlist has 107,000 followers, which is really awesome. We can even look at date added. Maybe we only want to see playlists that Georgia has been added to in the last 7 days. And of course, playlist is a lot of data, so this might take a little longer to load, but this is a super powerful page of Chartmetric. And we also have this recent tool that we've developed that I think is really exciting, where you can compare two separate releases from an artist to one another and see, okay, which playlist is this track on that track B is not on, or vice versa, or maybe which ones do they share. And the thing that's cool about this is you can see in a span of days since that track was released when it was added to the playlist. So maybe we'd like to compare these two songs and we see, okay, top 50 Switzerland, only La Cura per Me is on that playlist in comparison to this other track, Niente di Male. So that's our playlist page. Only gave a little preview of Spotify, but know that when we go to any of these others, we can see those same sort of metrics as well. Now I will pass over to Sarah to get into some other exciting aspects of the artist profile.
Alrighty, so I'm going to dive into one of my favorite tabs here, audience. And, as I mentioned in sort of my intro presentation, just sort of how important it can be to know where your audience is today, because again, music is more global than ever. So you need to know where your fan bases are to make sure that you're reaching them in the right place. So here we have sort of our overall audience demographics. At the top, you have a bit of a summary, so sort of where is the audience in terms of these, four major platforms. And our audience is all determined by Instagram, Spotify, TikTok, and YouTube data. Those are sort of the only four, I guess, platforms that we do have audience demographics for. And so you can see here just the raw value of their total followers. But then when we dive down here, this is, I think, one of my favorite modules on the entire artist page. So it's the overall audience demographics, and this is combining all of those platforms that I just mentioned to give you sort of an overview, an all-encompassing view of where their audience is and what that audience looks like. Because as we know, audience can differ between platforms. TikTok might have a much younger sort of audience base, whereas something like Instagram could be a little bit older. So we take all of those and combine them into one sort of number here. And so we're seeing that her audience is almost 70% female, which is really cool. And then she also has a between the age range of 25 and 34 for the age demographic here. Audience ethnicity definitely skews primarily white, Caucasian, and the audience language is almost 90% Italian as well. And now we can also dive further into sort of that location. So we have this at a city and a country level. So here we can see at the city, quick note is we get the top 5 cities for an artist based on Spotify monthly listeners. This differs depending on what platform you're looking at. But for Spotify, we get the top 5. The rest of the cities are estimated. But you'll be able to see that here. YouTube, we get the top 10 cities for an artist. Might take a second to load. But you can also, again, see this at a country level, which is super cool. Not sure why this isn't loading. Okay. Here we go. So these are the top cities by YouTube monthly views. We also have by Instagram followers, mostly Italian cities. And again, we can do this by country as well. So you can see sort of where that secondary audience might be living outside of Italy. So she seems to have a large fan base in Switzerland, Germany, Spain, and France. Next, I'm going to go ahead and share with you the comparables tool, which is sort of newer to Chartmetric, but it's really exciting. And I think in today's, sort of social day of age, it's really important to know what artists are similar to you and what artists are sort of reaching their fan bases in certain ways that you can almost mimic or, try to learn from. So what we do here is we do a bit of a distribution for artists that are similar to you, but here it's segmented by career stage. So you can see that Georgia is right here. And this is in that mainstream section. But we also have similar artists that are more at a superstar level. So maybe a bit more, have a bit higher metrics, have a bit of a higher fan base, and even into the legendary category here. But we can also go the opposite way, and we can, look at maybe a smaller artist. So perhaps Georgia wants to find an upcoming DJ or producer to produce her next record. She can look at, developing and mid-level artists as well that are in these, similar category. So this is by career stage. We can also do this by momentum. And you can also toggle off genre, subgenre, and country of origin as well. So here we zoom down and we see these clusters again here. This is again by those overall metrics, but you can toggle on and off genre, audience on Instagram, audience on YouTube, and audience on TikTok. So here we see the artists that are in the closer circle are more similar versus the further you expand out are artists that maybe aren't as similar, but still have pretty significant similarities. So Georgia and Matthew Lee have an 87% similarity. You can see here those breakdown of their audiences. They seem to have similar genres, similar audience demographics, and are perhaps landing on some of the similar playlists. So then when you scroll down here, you can see an even further in-depth artist comparison. It'll show you the artists that have the most similarity in terms of audience base and metrics. And you can toggle on and off here to see certain overlaps. And then as you scroll down even further, just more of those neighboring artists sort of at a table view. So this was again an overview of the artist profile page. We dove into some of our favorite sections, but there are so many other things that you can check out as well. As we mentioned, we have charts data here, which is super important just to see, what sort of countries your tracks are getting picked up in. We also have brand affinity data, which is really cool. If I'm an artist and I'm looking to partner up with perhaps some sort of brand, I could see what my audiences on, perhaps Instagram are most associating and also following. You can see some of that affinity data here. And again, we have airplay data as well. So you can see, where in the world your songs are getting the most radio airplay. Cool. So now that we've taken a look at the artist profiles, I'm going to go ahead and show you a more zoomed out version, or a more zoomed out view of sort of the Chartmetric platform here. And one of my favorite tools is the artist list. So, in this zoomed out sense, we showed you an artist profile, but now we are sort of showing you all 11 million artists that we track at one glance. So what this does, to sort of go back to our Chartmetric score that Melina explained earlier, we are currently ranking every single artist by their Chartmetric score, from, a list of 1 to essentially 11 million. So you can see here that globally, across all platforms, Kendrick Lamar is ranked number 1. Following that, you have Bruno Mars, Bad Bunny, so on and so forth. And what you can do with this tool, though, is by default, it is ranked by Chartmetric score, but you can go ahead here and toggle on by whatever metric you want to look at. So now we are sorting by Spotify monthly listeners, and Bruno Mars happens to have the highest amount of Spotify monthly listeners on a global scale. And as we scroll here, we can see more and more metrics that we'd be able to sort by: TikTok followers, airplay, Shazams. All of those platforms that we've been sharing about throughout this presentation are presented here on the artist list. And where this tool becomes very powerful is, in my opinion, from sort of an A&R standpoint. If I am, an A&R and I'm looking to sign a specific type of artist, perhaps I want to add some filters. And it's these smart filters that I think are really, really powerful here. So all of these different sort of attributes you can toggle on and off by. So perhaps I want to look at a female artist. Let's see where, okay. So we have gender and pronouns here. Can toggle on by she, her pronouns. So now we're only looking at female artists in this list. And now we can toggle on perhaps a certain genre. So maybe I want to look for an upcoming Italian producer. So I can toggle on, let's just say, the dance and electronic genres here. And now I can filter further by region, continent, or country. But I'm going to go ahead and select Italy here. Alrighty. So now, as I mentioned, we track all 11 million artists, but we've actually narrowed this list down to 529 artists now. So from an A&R standpoint, this allows you to sort of narrow down your search in, artists that may be upcoming, or you're looking for a certain type of artist. And interestingly, Georgia appears here, probably because she associates with that sort of dance pop genre. And you can see their stats here if you swipe. And you can also sort by sort of this trending sort of aspect. So if you go in here to metric change, click Spotify, say I want to see artists that have had a certain percent of growth in monthly listeners in the past 28 days. So I can narrow the search down now to a certain metric here, and it's only going to show me artists that are having this percent of growth on, Spotify or whatever platform you choose. So now we've gone down from 300 so artists to 90. And this gives us a really good picture of, what's trending right now, especially, again, from if you're looking at this from an A&R side. And then last but not least on this tool, I want to highlight the importance of shortlists. So from the use case of perhaps a label or a manager, and I'm only looking at a certain group of artists at all times. So maybe I'm looking at the same 20 artists every day. I don't really care much about what else is going on, but I want to make sure that I'm always able to access an aggregate view of my roster. I can actually create a shortlist and say label roster. And I can go ahead and select any artist that is a part of that. And then once you go ahead and do so, instead of having all of these artists on the list view, you'll be able to only see a certain number of these. So I created a short list, for example, of Sunday's Coachella lineup. This is about 47 artists. So I'm only seeing the artists from that day. And you can still go ahead and sort by, whatever metric you want to look at. Currently, it's by monthly listeners. I can sort by channel subscribers. I can also change this to be a different set of days. So trends in over 7 days versus 60 days. Instead of raw values, you can do percent change values. And yeah, this is sort of how that tool works. And it's just really effective, depending on sort of what your area is in the industry. It can change, but it's just super powerful. And next, I'm going to go ahead and share my second favorite tool on Chartmetric, which is the artist comparison tool. It allows you to sort of compare different artist tracks or albums against each other. And so as you were seeing those modules earlier on the stats and trends section, where you could see an artist's Spotify monthly listeners on a line graph, now you can do that, but you can sort of take all of these artists and do it at the same time. So for example, let's do Kendrick Lamar and Drake, funny enough. Might take a second to load. And now we are seeing both of these artists plotted at the same time. And you can toggle off the date range. We can do a year view, all time. We'll just keep it at a year. And here you can toggle on and off the platform that you want to look at. So right now the default is Chartmetric score, but I can go ahead and change this to Spotify monthly listeners if I wanted to. So here you can see the listener change throughout the last year. Looks like Kendrick Lamar ended up on top after the recent rap beef. But yeah, and you can go ahead and you can select up to 10 artists, or I'm sorry, 30 artists to compare at once. And you can do this same for tracks, different tracks, and even albums. But what's also really cool about this tool is instead of comparing separate artists against each other, you can actually compare separate metrics of an artist against each other. So for example, let's do Kendrick Lamar. And we can compare his Spotify monthly listeners. Actually, let's do Spotify followers and compare those to his YouTube subscribers, sorry. And now we can do that of all time. And it looks like he probably didn't have an active YouTube account, or we just weren't tracking it. But here you can see sort of those metrics compared to each other. And I've only selected 2 here, but you could 100% go in and just select as many as you would like. Cool. So I'm going to pass it over to Melina to sort of close us out here.
Now that we've given you sort of the ins and outs, the 101 of what Chartmetric is, who these services are most useful for, who uses our app, and of course, how they use our app, what are all the different features that we have available, I really hope that you have a better sense of the power really that Chartmetric can bring to you and your team, whether you're an artist, whether you're a manager, whether you're a label, or even as big as a ginormous music company. Taking ownership of your data is really powerful. It allows you to kind of get to that next step, get on that same level as a lot of these really influential and really successful industry professionals are at, because it gives you the ability to understand what is happening from all angles. What's going on in my streaming? What's going on with my audience? How can I leverage that information to make better data-driven business decisions? So many people benefit a lot from using Chartmetric even every day. And of course, Sarah and I have shown you a lot of the different tools today, but we haven't shown you all of them. There's much more to explore and dive deeper into. And I think that's another part that makes Chartmetric so exciting, is that we as a company are building these features, we're building our tools for users, but at the end of the day, this data is in your hands. You have full control over the way that you want to interact with it, that you want to play with it. And because there's so many customizable elements to it, you can completely make this dashboard exactly what you want it to be to serve you in the way that is most important to you. So maybe myself as a small artist, I feel good about how I'm assessing my performance on streaming, but it's really important for me to get a better sense of what my audience is like. Maybe I'm planning a tour that I would like to have some data to inform me for. Chartmetric is the best place to come for that. We know that the audience tab is going to give us that direct data. I could check that page every day, see some updates, gain some more insights, and maybe do my own analysis, download that data myself. That's a place that it would be super helpful. Or for another artist, or maybe I have a label and I've just released a sort of compilation album across a variety of different artists. They all have songs featured on this album. I can check out Chartmetric, set up maybe a short list, or use the comparables tool to every day monitor the success and the change in the trends for that album. So those are just a couple examples, but I really want for everyone, when they think about this app, to think about ways that it can be personally helpful the most for you and your team, because it's really important in an industry where, it's unfortunately dominated by men. For us as women and non-binary professionals and musicians, to make sure that we have all the tools in our favor to be the most successful that we can. Unfortunately, when you're not taking advantage of your data and your analytics, you're going to be behind the curve and you might lose some of that influence and some stake. So what we really want to offer to Chartmetric is data available for everyone. No matter who you are, no matter the level of your career that you're at, you have the power to take advantage of your data. And something that I just want to call out, because of course this is the Gender and Music Conference, is when we look at our total artists, 11.7 million, but then we take a closer look and add some filters here. Of those artists, we only see that, of course, not all artists have gender and pronoun data available, but a pretty small percentage of our artists are in fact not just men. We could even go back into the filters and add here more to include non-binary people and those who use other pronouns. But I think it's really important to remember that for us as industry, members, professionals, I'm on the data side of things. Of course, in tech, we see a domination from men, but that's kind of the trend across all the industries. It's really important to make sure that not only we support each other, but we empower one another. And that's why Sarah and I are so passionate to be here today speaking to you and telling you more about our platform, because it is really important for us to ensure that everyone can empower themselves with the use of their data, no matter who they are, no matter who their gender is, and ensure that we can uplift everyone in this industry and industries beyond to all see the success that I know we deserve. So this has been a long session, but we really appreciate your patience and you taking the time to listen to us today. I know it's been quite long, but we're really enthusiastic to have just allowed you to get some more details and information about what Chartmetric is and what we do. I hope that you've learned something new today. And of course, we will be available for more question and answers after this session and also asynchronously. Please feel free to reach out to us if you have any questions or anything you'd like to know more about. We would love to help you out. Thanks again so much for being here. I'm Melina.
I'm Sarah.
And we are from Chartmetric. Thanks.